Hello and welcome to the Mighty Oaks Show. My name is Jeremy Stallnecker. I'm the Executive Director of the Mighty Oaks Foundation. Glad to be with you today. And as we get started, I will remind you, as I always do, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do that. If you're listening on Mojo or through a podcast service, go over to YouTube, look for the Mighty Oaks Show. You'll find us there. A lot of content there. Subscribe, like, and share out the content. We would love to continue to share this with you, and we do our best to put not only this show but a lot of other content onto our channel, and all of that is intended for you and to help you grow and learn and even help others. We'd love to continue that. And today, special episode, special show, kind of an unusual show for us, kind of one of those on-call. We had an opportunity and so we got together. I'm here with Pastor David Baird, and Pastor Baird, thank you for being with us.
Excited to be here, Jeremy.
It's awesome. You are in town to talk about some Mighty Oaks business. Pastor Baird is the founding pastor of the Life Church in D.C., now pastored by your son Josh.
That's right.
And we'll talk about that a little bit here in a minute, but you're also a board member for Mighty Oaks Foundation, and excited to have you out here. And we've had a great conversation today and talked about a lot of we'll say opportunities.
I don't think anything excites me any more than what God is doing through Mighty Oaks. It's really I tell people all the time, it's a miracle in the making. It's an unfolding miracle. And sometimes when you're close to a miracle, you don't realize it's that.
Right, that's right.
But I get to see it somewhat firsthand. Yeah. And before, as a pastor, the impact that you guys had on our church has been profound. And just to see what Mighty Oaks, how God's using it. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been an amazing thing. We were just you and I were talking even today about kind of the year that we've come out of, and the year that we're getting into, and how much God has blessed and is opening doors for us.
There's a spiritual momentum, I call it, because lives are being changed. That's
lives are being changed. It's an amazing thing. We're going to talk today a little bit about church, and you've been involved in church work for a long time. Specifically talking about church involvement in organizations like Mighty Oaks and why it's important that churches are involved in what we would call maybe a parachurch organization, and there are a lot of them out there. But before we get into that, tell us the story a little bit about the Life Church and kind of your journey through this. You're transitioning out of the full-time pastorate now. Yeah. But talk about kind of where you came from and that journey.
Well, I've been close to church, really, I tell people 9 months longer than my life. Maybe I even got conceived in church, who knows?
You never can tell.
But I've been in church all my life, and really when I graduated from college, I went right into ministry, and I've been in ministry now 40-some years.
Wow.
40, I'm not sure how many, and in 1999, my wife and I founded the Life Church, non-denominational church in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., and we pastored that church until 1 year ago in 2019. We transitioned our leadership. We transitioned the senior pastor role over to my son. I'm still very much a part of the church. I just say instead of him following me now, I'm following him, because he can run faster.
Which one is harder?
After you've been the number one person in a ministry, it's more difficult, but it's kind of more exciting because he runs a lot fast. He's a lot younger. He's more athletic, so he can run a lot faster than me. So I'm trying to keep up with him, and it's awesome because we're all in this together. At the end of the day, the church is not a leadership position, it's the people. So it's been actually awesome for my wife and I to kind of be on the other side of that, because for 30-some years we had pastored in Northern Virginia, 34 years, and 20 as senior pastor of the Life Church. So
it's incredible. I look at my kids. I have 2 older kids and 2 younger kids, so 20 and 18, and they're getting older, and now they're kind of getting out on their own, and they don't ever stop being your kids, but it's fun to watch them grow and mature. We talked about this a little bit. We did a show a while ago on legacy and what that looks like, handing over to your son. But I'm sure it's exciting to be able to hand that over to your kids.
Absolutely. Well, interestingly, when we started Life Church, we had pastored and we enjoyed it, but we really felt our kids, the paradigm of church that we were a part of wasn't going to attract a younger generation. And so it was real important to me. Legacy, we talk a lot about legacy. We hear a lot about it. Sports figures, all kinds of people, we talk about legacy, but really legacy, anyone that's got children has legacy.
Right.
It might be a good one, it might be a bad one. So I don't think
want it or not, you're going to
I don't think there's anyone we can affect any more than our own family at the end of the day. And as important as church is to me, church is made up of family, and really, and so we wanted to see a church that our kids would be excited about. They started bringing their friends, and the exponential growth that our church had. A lot of that stemmed from just kids having influence. They all played sports, and they brought their kids, their friends, and then their parents would come. And so my kids, and now I've got 7 grandchildren. My youngest son just had twins, so I jumped from 5 to 7. The church is growing exponentially.
Growth,
yes. So, to see them, number one, love church, and then number 2, get discipled to make their lives useful to the kingdom of God through the church. There's nothing any more beneficial.
Nothing better.
Nothing better.
We talk a lot about church, and my background has been church. I don't think I was conceived at church, but I definitely spent a lot of time there, even as a baby, and watched my dad start a church, and I've been around it and pastored, and I love the church. I believe that really the single vehicle that God gave to us to reach the world is the local church.
Right.
And we need to be focused on that.
And I want to say something, Jeremy. I take a little bit of exception when someone would call, and you might have just done it, but Mighty Oaks is not really parachurch.
Sure.
To me, parachurch, that's a negative term to me, because I've seen so many people who go down the parachurch route lose connection with the local church. And I know technically you could say Mighty Oaks is a parachurch, but I think Mighty Oaks is just right there serving with the local church in seeing lives changed and seeing people who are in tough situations. It's no different. What you guys do every day, and I think it comes down to a thing of spirit. What is your spirit? And you guys do not compete with local churches.
Right.
You serve local churches. And as long as that church is Bible believing, it doesn't matter what label is on the door. What I love about Mighty Oaks is that Mighty Oaks is there to strengthen the local church. And that's why I'm involved with Mighty Oaks. It's my passion, and I know it's your passion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very important distinction. We fall, since we were not started by a local church ministry and don't operate under the umbrella of a local church ministry, we fall maybe in that parachurch. And we talked about this at lunch. When I was growing up, that was a very negative connotation. And so we try to be clear about what we are and what we're not. And we do come alongside the church, and that's very important. And again, trying to make that distinction. We at Mighty Oaks don't believe that we're in place to replace the church. That Christ gave his life for Mighty Oaks or organizations like ours. The Bible doesn't say that. It says he gave his life for the church. We know that. And that's a very important thing. So we then come alongside the church to perhaps equip the church or help the church do things that it's not equipped to do. How important is it that church leaders understand that? Well, not just with Mighty Oaks, by the way. There are some other great organizations.
No, and I do think Mighty Oaks is helping to change the paradigm of what a parachurch ministry is all about. And we're not the only organization. There are many other organizations doing a great job at that. And the playing field has changed since I was younger.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Yeah.
But there are still parachurch organizations that I cringe when someone from my church gets involved, because I know they're going to lose their passion to serve their local church. And I don't know anyone that's gone through Mighty Oaks programs that doesn't have at least as much, if not more, commitment to their local church after they pass through.
We talk about, people ask, what do you teach at Mighty Oaks? We teach a lot of things, but we give 4 takeaways, the 4 B's, and one of those is you need to be connected to a local church. And if you're not leaving here and getting plugged into a local body of believers, a local church, then you're doing it wrong.
Well, I think regardless of what kind of background we come out of, church is a local fellowship. It's not just something that we find on the internet. I mean, it's a family that we are committed to locally in a community, whether that's in South America or Africa or in Southern California. It doesn't matter. That's church, and it can look differently. There are mega churches, there are big assemblies, there are house churches, and that's all fine. But there is that basic element of the church, and I believe the church is the hope of the world.
Absolutely.
And somebody questioned me on that one day, and they said, "Well, David, don't you believe Jesus is the hope of the world?" Well, absolutely. But Jesus was called the light of the world, but Jesus called the church the light of the world.
Yes.
So I don't see a contradiction. I see the church complementing Christ. It's Christ and the church. I may not go so far as one of the church fathers said, you cannot have God as your father if you don't have the church as your mother. So, I'm not sure I go quite that far because that can become idolatry. And I believe somebody can call on the name of the Lord and never go to a church, the thief on the cross, and they'll go to heaven. Yep. But you can't function in the kingdom of God to your maximum without being connected to the church.
You cannot grow, you can't be what God has called you to be.
And Mighty Oaks is one of the great ministries, I believe, that connects people. It's not in competition with any local church. In fact, I think the partnership between Mighty Oaks and the local church is one of the bright shining lights of this ministry. And interestingly, we were on Capitol Hill together a few weeks ago, and we heard this congresswoman talking about she wanted to see local churches all over the United States.
It's an amazing thing to hear that from a congresswoman.
Yes, from a congresswoman.
Vicky Hartzler.
Yes, if we call her name, it's just it's not some of the other congresswomen that are in the
I wouldn't
news
call
right
everybody's
now.
name.
Yeah, right. But she's saying she wants to see the church rise up and actually employ and activate military veterans and people that come out of the military in helping their local communities through the local church. And I was thinking, wow.
Yeah. And this was a conversation we were having about the Veterans Administration. And that was her solution.
Yeah, I don't think we
need to get back to the local church.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Why is it so difficult or such a challenge for local churches to minister to the military community, to the veteran community?
I think that's a good question. I think the church, it's kind of like the business community in the marketplace. The church has not done a good job of actually serving the marketplace. I don't think we've done a good job of serving the military community. And I think that's why Mighty Oaks can help so much. Although any local church that wants to serve, and I think serving starts with not looking at what we get, but what we give.
Yes.
Serving is not what we get out of it, it's what we give to it.
Right.
So if we're going to, for example, every church would love to have billionaires and millionaires and successful business people.
Everyone that I know would love to.
Right, because we never have enough money. We need more money. But so often I think business leaders feel that the church is just there for their money. And I think military, in a little different way, I think the military community can really feel that the military is very organized, very structured. The local church is very different. It's a volunteer organization. And I think military people can become displaced in a local church real fast and not feel that they have a role. And I think Mighty Oaks can help. And the great thing about Mighty Oaks, it starts with this premise that we all are broken. We all need healing. We all need restoration. We all need redemption in God in our life. And I just think, people that want to be used, that come out of specific communities like that, they don't necessarily even want to be singled out. They just want to find their place.
Right.
And I think I agree with the Congresswoman that the church, and there needs to be a marriage between our veterans and our military community that's even serving. Yeah. And I think the church has to start by serving the military community, not the other way around.
Right. And it's hard. We talk about contextualizing the gospel, and that's an important conversation to have. In the church, the local church, I believe, a Bible-based church grounded in Scripture, understands what they need to do and how they need to communicate to help people who are hurting. Trauma is not reserved for veterans. We know that. Right. All people hurt, and churches help people who are hurting and point them to Christ. What they often lack, though, is the context around those conversations to deliver that message to folks who've served in the military. Right. And one of the things that Mighty Oaks has had the opportunity to do is to contextualize that message and put it in a form, kind of wrap it up in a way that folks who have served understand.
And you guys do that in a way that, say, I don't have a military background. Right. I could never do that. I know the answers.
Right.
It's the same answer.
It's the same answer. Yeah, that's right.
But you guys know how to contextualize it, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant to see, both in the legacy programs, which help people who are in trouble.
Yes.
The aftercare. And even in the resiliency programs.
One of the big obstacles to helping military people is not the truth. The truth is available. It's getting beyond the you don't know what it's like to be me. And I don't think that's dissimilar to divorce care ministries or ministries for single parents, or there are a lot of ministries that a church would have, and we understand it in those contexts, but sometimes in the military we don't get it. It's not dissimilar. If you can't connect on a personal level with experience, it's hard to get to the truth.
There was a day, Jeremy, when, say, the evangelical church community, it wouldn't focus, say, on marriage ministry.
Right.
That was almost, something we didn't touch. Right. And the church has done a good job in certain areas, like student ministries and youth. Yeah. Now, most successful growing churches is going to minister contextually to a child or to a student. But why can't it happen with military?
And we need to continue to work along that route. We have been talking about this a lot, and this is one of the things we talked about when we were speaking in Washington, is just the sheer numbers of folks who have served. Nearly 20 million folks in our country have served. 2 million, almost 3 million, depending on how you count, are serving actively right now in the United States. And they're a demographic that, by and large, churches don't know how to minister to.
They don't know how.
And we need to be able to do that, and Mighty Oaks has the opportunity. And one of the things—
It's interesting, if you look at Jesus' ministry and the early church, think about the number of military people that are in the stories that are told. In the
first Gentile that was reached out to was a military man. And probably a lot of good reasons for that too. Folks that know how to get things done and understand, as you said, order and discipline in those things.
Well, if you want to take that theologically, who understand they have an understanding of how kingdom functions in the sense of the rule of God coming into our lives and into our communities, and it's the perfect marriage.
It's great, and we're in a place where we can do that. And you and I were talking about this today. This is what we're discussing is doing our best to connect churches in a deeper way with the work that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Why is it important that churches get more involved with Mighty Oaks?
Well, I think for one reason, we've just talked about it. I think there are probably very few churches in America that don't have people from the military or veterans or active service or reservists who are in their church.
Right.
So that's one reason right there. I think beyond that, I think Mighty Oaks is one of the best missional opportunities for the local church, because we talked about going into all the world, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, the othermost part of the earth. The Bible talks about we start at home and then venture out.
Right.
At our church, the way we saw Mighty Oaks, we do a lot in our local community for outreach, and we do a lot globally, different continents, but we weren't doing a lot nationally.
Right.
And I just think one of the best missions to the United States is Mighty Oaks, because of how it's touching the military community, and particularly the segment of the military community that needs healing.
Yeah, and praying more churches come along and understand that. Missions, again, something we've discussed earlier today, was missions has been viewed differently, I think, since the Great Commission of Christ, since the beginning. And we've looked at this very differently, but understanding that really the heart of missions is communicating the gospel to the lost and broken and helping them to enter into a relationship with Christ.
Yeah, I think there's been a real paradigm shift in the last few years in a good way.
Right.
I think it's good. Some people might think it's bad, where we're seeing missions as more than just the missionary that's going to the third world.
Right.
And that's important, very important.
Yeah.
But in addition, there are many missional opportunities right in our own communities and really in this nation. Yeah. And what happens if we lose America? We lose opportunity to propagate the gospel in other places. So if we want to have revival in this nation, would not the military community be one of the places? And what does revival look like? To me, it's restoration and redemption and people getting their lives figured out.
When, more broadly, when a church leader looks at an organization like Mighty Oaks, maybe not Mighty Oaks, we talked about Samaritan's Purse and some of the other organizations that do great work. When a church leader is looking at those organizations, what are they looking for to determine if that's a good fit for a church to partner with?
Well, I think most pastors are looking for a return on investment. And when I say that, I mean, if we're going to put God's money and the missions giving of our people, there's an integral aspect to that. If somebody's going to give money for missions, we don't use that for our own four walls.
Right.
But the tendency, churches become so survivalistic so fast. But I think the best way to overcome that is just to become outward in our focus and to give it away and become generous. Yeah. So I think churches, good, strong churches that are growing, whether they're small or large, it doesn't matter. They want to be involved in something that's going to be making a difference, so return on investment. And man, Mighty Oaks is, the stats show it. Yeah. It's a great way, and I think it's something people can rally and get around. I mean, the PTSD problem, it's not going away. The suicide problem, it's not going away. The anxiety problem, it's not going away. And we've got Mighty Oaks there. And I just think as leaders in churches, in fact, if you're watching this broadcast, let your pastor know about Mighty Oaks.
Right.
Maybe we can give the website to go check it out, and we'd be glad to connect with them and talk to them about how Mighty Oaks can come in and serve them. We're not just looking for money from churches. Right. We certainly are looking, churches support Mighty Oaks. They undergird it through people, through resources, through bringing people. A lot of the people that come through the programs are recommended through churches. We know that. But we can serve a local church. Mighty Oaks has the ministry that can serve a local church, and I believe bring that connection.
And how tragic it is if the local church that has the answers for things like post-traumatic stress and suicide and marriages that are struggling because of trauma and all these other issues. These are spiritual issues, but we've almost allowed a secular part of our world, a clinical part of our world, to treat those things, when we as people who believe in the book, believe the Bible, believe that God has the answers and that he's given us victory through Christ. We say we believe that, and yet we fail to minister that to people that need it.
Yeah, and it was so, when we were in Washington, it was so evident to me that Mighty Oaks understands, as a ministry and through its programs, understands spirit, soul, and body. Right. And the resiliency, if I can get the word out.
It's not an easy one to say.
It's not just physical, and it's not just emotional and mental and soulish. There's a spiritual aspect, really, and that's where it all starts. And I think that it's a success. Mighty Oaks is, I can't champion it enough. Yeah. I think every church, what if every church in America, I know that's not going to happen, what if every church in America could get involved? And I just think it could be a catalyst for changing the nation.
I think we would not be talking about 22 suicides a day and a lot of the other issues we are.
Exactly.
If the churches in America got behind the work. Well, thank you for the conversation.
And one other thing. Of the 22, what's the statistic? 22 suicides a day from military community, veterans or?
Veterans, and then the active duty community is 3, almost 4 a day.
So of those 22, I guarantee you a good portion of those have been in a church.
Sure.
Somewhere.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of church, somewhere. Not all of them, but some of them have. And if every church had a connection to Mighty Oaks, it doesn't just provide hope for the person that, say, goes to a legacy week and gets their life turned around, but that spills over into so many other arenas and avenues.
I was going to bring us to a conclusion here, but I'll say because of that, the number of families that reach out to us and say, I don't know what to do with a family member that's struggling in this area. And I'll say, what about your church? Well, we go to church, but they don't know what to do either.
Right.
There is an answer.
Right.
And we're not the answer. We're just the conduit to the answer.
No,
but we are the conduit to the answer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you are watching or listening, again, and you are part of a local church, maybe you lead a local church or involved in that, please do reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And all we're asking for is the opportunity to help you minister to the folks that you're working with. And maybe you have a loved one, you know someone that's struggling. Let us help you with that. Go to our website, mightyoaksprograms.org. mightyoaksprograms.org. All of our programs are free to the person who's attending, and we'll even cover travel. And you're a board member. We talk about this all the time.
It's amazing.
Travel is one of the things that we spend a lot of money on every year. We just think it's that important.
And we've seen
to get folks there.
As a local church pastor, the men that we have sent, I don't know if we've sent any women. I know there are women, separate women's programs, but the men that we've sent to the program, not one has come back unchanged.
Yeah.
Transformed. They come back transformed.
Yeah. It's an amazing opportunity and one we'd like to extend to you. So please do. If we can do anything for you, let us know. And we'd love to come and even talk to your church staff and figure out how we can better support what you're doing. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Watching. That's almost like resiliency. It's a hard word to say, watching. But thank you for watching. And we'd love to talk to you again. Let us know if we can do anything for you. MightyOaksPrograms.org. We'll talk to you next time.